So, for the record here, how do you want to introduce yourself?
Kieran Morris, 26 years young, 27 in a couple of weeks. I'm from Liverpool, the greatest city in the world. I've been exiled in London, the second greatest city in the world, for 9 years. And yeah, I'm a magazine writer, editor, and audio doc maker as of this year.
So, there's a meta aspect to this, as you just hinted at the very end, of your autobiography. But when you say that you're almost 27 years old, do people believe you? Because I need our podcast audience to understand that I'm looking at you and I'm like, you could pass for, I don't know. What's the drinking age in England? I guess it would be like 4?
18.
Okay. But I want to go back to where this is all born, which was, I think, when you were around 13 years old.
Yeah, so 2010.
And so you're in Liverpool at this point?
Yeah, back home in Liverpool.
And what does 13-year-old Kieran Morris like to do for fun?
We just like to get ourselves in like weird little bits of trouble that was somewhat adjacent with sports, sometimes not.
Our reporters are still all across the country, and believe me, they are braving the elements tonight because it's deadline day and there will be late drama.
Like when there's transfer deadline day.
So Kieran is talking about one of the biggest days in European soccer, which is transfer deadline day. It is the final day for teams to make signings, which they call transfers over there, and add new players to their team. And as you might imagine, like with other major sports, it comes with an entire day full of endless television coverage.
When Sky Sports News are there, they've got the cameras rolling, waiting for players to come in, last-minute medicals, all of that.
The lights are still on behind me. The media team are still here. And I can tell you, Fulham fans, that there may well still be one more deal to be done in the next 55 minutes or so. But they have got one deal done.
And we'd walk over and we'd just, stare really blankly into the camera, like, yokels that hadn't seen technology before. And then we'd rush back and we'd see if anyone had seen it on TV and be like, oh my God, who are those freaks in the back? And that was us.
You're describing now, truly, like a pubescent, and forgive me, 13-year-old Kieran, for saying it this way, you're describing a 13-year-old attention whore a little bit.
Completely.
And what did 13-year-old attention whore Kieran Morris like to do the most as those pranks were concerned?
So the first big one that really had a landing point to it was focused on the world that as 13, I think 14-year-olds by this point, 2011, the world we cared about the most, which was Sky Sports News, football transfers, the transfer rumor, gossip mill and all of that. Every single time I was in my friend's house, Sky Sports News playing all the time. Little number on the bottom of it. Call us up if you hear anything, that kind of thing. Sports media wasn't quite as glamorous then.
Oh, it was a
kind
simpler
of functional.
time, Kieran. Yeah. Yes. When a bottom line meant something scrolling across your television.
Exactly. It felt like breaking news. I miss it. And so we were just like, okay, what matters more to us than anything? Football. What would be stupid? William Gallas, he's just left Arsenal. He was a free agent. What if he went to, Birmingham?
Okay, just to clarify again for the Americans who do not closely follow soccer here. William Gallas is a really good French defenseman, or at least he was. He played for Chelsea and Arsenal for 10 years. And then, in the 2010-2011 season, he was on the decline. He was entering the back end of his career. And so Kieran thought it would be funny if William Gallas's next move was to play at a really shitty club, like Birmingham.
Lower mid-table, dowdy old Birmingham.
Mm-hmm.
He's on the out, he's old. It could happen. Let's try and just put some calls in. And so we booked him a room at this really fancy luxury hotel in the center of Birmingham. I put on my worst, unrepeatable French accent as an agent.
Hold on. What does your worst unrepeatable French accent sound like?
Oh, it's talking like this, So can I have a roommate is coming in... my client, William, you cannot tell what it is for. It is for Birmingham.
Pretty terrible.
Yeah,
admittedly.
If that makes it to tape, oh my God, I will never be allowed to cross the Eurotunnel again.
But wait, hold on. But using this terrible French accent, you've engineered this rumor out of nothing that you've sort of Goldilocksed, right? It's not so implausible that people would dismiss it out of hand. You're kind of targeting something that might actually infiltrate the bottom line scroll on Sky Sports News. That is something that you've targeted very, very deliberately.
Yeah, that was the aim. And then from there, it was as easy as saying to a few papers, I've just heard from my friend who works at the Malmaison, the hotel. Don't take it from me, but apparently William Gallas has booked a room. He's coming in tonight, trying to build some kind of momentum for it. And then telling Sky Sports all of this, oh my God, my phone's been blowing up. Apparently, William Gallas is going to Birmingham. I've heard it from this guy at this paper. I've heard it from the guy at the hotel. And then the next morning, we're watching Sky Sports News again. There's a flash interview with Alex McLeish, who was the manager at the time. And it's just 10 seconds of, oh, you've been linked with William Gallas. Do you have anything to say about that?
No, nothing in that. I've got 2 young centre-halves and it's not the right move for me. I need to spend my money on other positions that, or spend the club's money on other positions that we really need to improve things.
And for that tiny amount, that's all we wanted out of it. That was one of the funniest moments of our entire lives.
But wait, so you get this taste, right? You get this feeling that has been revelatory, that transforms you. And what do you want to do next?
So it came to a year later, and all the way through this, we're making legends out of ourselves to each other.
Oh, you're insufferable, I imagine.
Oh, unbelievable. I couldn't put up with me if I had to deal with me at that age. We were 16 by this point, and the Olympics had just started, 2012. And I don't know, it felt like revisiting the Gallas thing, the Gallas playbook, was a bit like getting like an old video game out again. And, giving it one last really intense spin.
Yep.
Like, here we go. Let's see what we can do. We're a little bit older, a little bit wiser. At 16, that is. And we're watching Honduras versus Morocco. Pretty staid game of football. And we get the itch again. It's, is there anyone here? Let's look through the squad list. And we looked at a few. A few of them had already gone to Europe. A few of them already had a sort of bit of hype around them. But there was a 19-year-old, number 10, making his sort of first waves into the national team. He was fairly dynamic on the day. His name was Alexander Lopez. He hadn't left Honduras. He had a pretty modest but good goal record, a little bit of detail on him. And I don't know what it was, but we just fixed our eyes on him. And before we know it, we're at the big boxy computer in the study, going through Wikipedia, juicing it up a little bit with a bit more bio here.
What are you editing on Wikipedia?
Oh, it's basically, at this point, it's a blank page. It's got a little bit of detail on him. Other than that, total clear avenue for anything. So a season had just gone by, the 11-12 season. It had no detail on it. Let's give him some references for, a great series of goals in the Honduran League.
Yeah, statistically, what are you giving him? What kind of an upgrade are you giving him?
18 goals, 34 assists, crazy, crazy, crazy figures. If you watch a player do that to your league, they're an object of fascination. He was an all-action, box-to-box goal scorer, technical wizard, talisman, all of this stuff. He's this talent waiting to break out of Olympia, onto the Olympic stage, and then off into the world. And that nice mix of, hey, he can score a lot of goals, but he can make a lot of else happen for his team. There's strikers there who are benefiting off it. Other people are rising with his tide. He's that talented. The assists I always thought were the flourish.
But hold on, because I need the scene, Kieran, of you settling, I presume at a computer, on the nickname that you knighted Alexander Lopez with.
I've looked at the Wikipedia records, and you can still see them. They're obviously all publicly available. And there was a point, there had to be a point where we had completely juiced up the whole profile, read it back, laughed. One of us has turned their back. And then there's a second edit, a distinct edit, that is just one line at the top. He is known to Olympia fans as the Honduran Maradona.
That is the sound of Diego Maradona doing one of the greatest things we have ever seen in sports, scoring one of the greatest goals in the history of soccer. It is known as the goal of the century, in case you didn't know, and it put Argentina up 2-0 against England in the quarterfinals of the 1986 World Cup, a World Cup that Maradona and Argentina would go on to win. And that goal and that run in the 86 World Cup, it would all cement Maradona as arguably the greatest of all time. And so the fact that Kieran was equating Alexander Lopez, this essentially anonymous Honduran soccer player, to Diego f***ing Maradona, it was patently absurd. But for the people who don't follow Honduran soccer, which is to say, basically all of us, it was still within the realm of possibility.
It was a cherry on top of the cake. It was so easily could have just been left. Wasn't part of the plan, but it was just, I know what could be an extra little something is this nickname. Next step was finding a club that he could move to. So we were going to make another rumor and do the ringing around again. And this time we went for Wigan, who had signed, I think, 3 Hondurans in the few years before. So again, not unreasonable, all within this boundary of, that makes sense. So we started the routine again, starting low, local papers, local to regional papers, regional to national papers. Whole evening spent on the phone. I had a fake name this time.
What was your fake name?
I was Neil Barker. I was a kind of gruff-voiced Northwest football journalist. I just heard some rumors around in the Wigan area, and I thought I'd ring up the Times news desk and I'd let them know.
Do you lower your voice when you're talking to the Times news desk? Give me Neil Barker calling up the Times news desk with the greatest scoop that anyone could have dreamed of.
Oh, I think he talked a bit like this, so it's a bit more Mancunian and a bit more. Yeah, so I've heard a little bit about Wigan signing another Honduran lad. He's playing at the Olympics now. He's called Alexander Lopez. Apparently he's really, really good. 2.5 million is what I've heard from the physio.
Oh, you're the physio's friend.
Oh, the physio's
Neil.
friend. Like, you just piece it together like that, where it's, a physio's friend could have let that slip. A medical could be happening. And then the Times, I remember I was on the phone with the guy for 20 minutes and he was taking down every detail. And he offers Neil Barker work in future. He says, I can't pay you money because the Times were under a lot of scrutiny at the time.
Sure.
Rupert Murdoch and all of that kicked off.
Yeah, let's yada, yada, yada over Rupert Murdoch to get to Neil Barker's future employment prospects.
Exactly. Yeah. And so they offered me work, and obviously I couldn't take them up on it, but I just said, here's the tip, here's the story.
So this insane prospect who comes from Honduras, an incredibly poor Central American country that is just obscure enough as well to not be a thing that people know a ton about. No one should believe this story. Right? Objectively, this is obviously just something that you totally created. But what is insane is that clearly someone or someones of even greater consequence apparently did.
Yeah. And so I think, for the very least, the Times, when they put it in the paper, they believed it. And then the year afterwards, we saw the news that the Houston Dynamo had paid $1 million for Alexander Lopez. And we just thought, oh my God. Like, there were the stats on the press release, 18 goals, 34 assists. They had, a YouTube clip of him up. The comments of that had, welcome the Honduran Maradona. We looked at the SB Nation posts and we looked at the Reddit boards, and there it was. Like, we looked away for like a second, and this wildfire seemingly had spread through Major League Soccer, who saw this Central American gem that had been linked to the Premier League. $2.5 million, let's sign him for $1 million. Bargain.